He has done that intensive research on the biology of cell. So all of you and me, when we were in school, college, we learned what is the, if you remember, you are a science student, or if you remember your school, where is the brain of the cell? Anyone remembers the brain of the cell, which we learned in school, college? What we have learned, the brain of the cell is basically the nucleus. The nucleus is the brain of the cell, and even today, all the books say the nucleus is the brain of the cell. He did intensive research, and when he's speaking, the brain is nucleus of the cell, but when he's doing the research, he's getting all proofs that the nucleus is not the brain of the cell. The membrane of the cell is the brain. That means the outer covering of the cell is the brain, not the nucleus. So why he did that experiment, that when the nucleus is destroyed, yet the cell is alive. So he said, when the brain is destroyed, how can the this thing be alive? So then later on he came to understanding that the membrane, the outside of the cell is. So when the membrane is the brain, if this is the membrane, the cell is this, and this is the outer covering. Okay, so all the perceptions from outside, all the environment signals are received by an antenna, which he says perception, the antenna. These all have antennas, and they are receiving signals from the environment. So the final conclusion was, if we can change the way we look at these signals, the signals itself changes. That means if we can change our perception of what we see through the eyes, we see the way we look, we change, the outside also changes. And he gives one proof with a story. The story is very, 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 very interesting to give the answer to a scientist. You're asking about reincarnation. So how does he explain it? With a story of a person. Now you hear a lady who has had a heart transplant. Okay, this is a story he will tell. A lady who has got a heart transplant from someone else. So they have put someone else's heart in her heart, okay, in her body, and she is continuously getting nightmares. So then they do the research. The girl who had a heart transplant, she was getting dreams, nightmares of being murdered. Why? Because the previous person whom the transplant was done from, she was murdered. That heart was translated into another one's body, and this person can remember who has murdered the previous person. So very interesting. That means what it goes to show is every part of the body has its memory. Okay, and when we memorize, that is why a lot of us go through some things which we cannot relate to. Why this is happening to me? Why it is happening? It can be of this life ka trauma, or it can be of some other life ka trauma also, which is playing, and we have that memory in the cell. So we call it genes. Genes means basically not only from parents. We call it sanchit karma. Sanchit karma means of the previous. So some things we don't know why a small child gets cancer. We don't know why a person like Ashtavakra, he is deformed in 8 places. Why is he? What? So these are all of sanchit karma. It's possible. Today's science, I mean, as he said, he is also given one small example of that.